10,000 of you are watching this channel. I want to tell you why that number matters, and it has nothing to do with vanity metrics. When I launched this channel on February 2nd, I made a decision that most people in my position would not make. I had just written a book about the crypto industry that took a hard look at the 14 years I've spent in it. It's not pretty. We got taken advantage of, and it's still happening. So I decided to put it all on camera, without a production team, without a media company, without a PR handler, and say, the system that extracted money from retail investors in crypto is not a bug. It's a feature of their system, and I can prove it. And it's spreading. 10,000 of you decided that was worth watching. So before I tell you what comes next on this channel, I want to tell you how we got here and why the story is bigger than any one video. In 2011, I was paid to answer a serious question. Can Bitcoin be used to fund bad things? My answer, then as now, is yes, it can. Just like the US dollar. Except with Bitcoin, there's a ledger. And as soon as I read Satoshi's paper, I was hooked. Do you know how hard it was to buy Bitcoin in 2011? You had to really want to. And I did. In 2016, I attended Consensus in New York. It was one of the first major crypto conferences in the world. The energy in that room was unlike anything I had ever experienced in 3 decades of building technology companies. There were just a few hundred people, not anything like what it is today. I was a speaker at Networld Interop in the 90s during the dot-com heyday. I was a pioneer in voice over IP. I spoke at the original Voice on the Net conferences. I know what it feels like to be in a room where something real is starting. And Consensus was bigger. Most of the people in that room genuinely believed they were building something that would change who controlled money. Trustless technology, programmable value, a system that didn't need a gatekeeper because math was the gatekeeper. I believe it too. Then I believed it enough to go all in the industry. I believed it enough to put my own money in. A year later, I lost money to REcoin. If you haven't heard of it, REcoin was either the first or one of the first ICO frauds prosecuted in the United States. The promoters raised millions of dollars from investors by claiming the token was backed by real estate assets in Eastern Europe. There were no assets. There was no real estate. There was a website, a white paper, and a very compelling story. And I fell for it. I fell for a few more along the way, but for every scammer, there were 100 honest projects. Most of them failed. Most startups do. I made some good choices, I made some bad choices. But then it changed. And that's what got me thinking about a book. And that's what this channel talks about nearly every day now. Institutions took over. They found ways to claw back the power we took in 2016 and 2017. Then they found ways to turn our dreams of programmable value and trustless technology into their reality of an extraction machine that has made them billions. So I documented it. That's my book, The Token Trap. 617 sources, evidence-based, damning. And this channel? Well, those institutions are working to find new ways to extract money from you. And I believe if you know how they're doing it, you can find ways to make money. But if you don't, if you're playing from the same rule book that you're playing with now or from a different rule book than they're using, you're doomed. That's what these videos do. This channel launched on February 2nd, 2026. The first short went up February 3rd. The first long-form video was February 16th. We are 3.5 months old. I say we because I mean you and me. On my side of the camera, it's just me. There's an iPhone, a light, and my office bookshelf behind me. In our first 100 days, we covered a lot of ground. I want to walk through the pattern because it's more coherent than it might look video by video. We started with the architecture of the collapse. Crypto didn't fail because retail investors made bad decisions. It failed because the information asymmetry was built in. Insiders knew what retail didn't. That's not a market. That's a hunting ground. We covered Scott Bessent and the Clarity Act and the specific mechanism by which the stablecoin yield prohibition in that bill protects bank deposit monopolies while presenting itself as pro-crypto legislation. That video reached over 81,000 people. The reason it worked is the same reason any of these work. There is a specific mechanism, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. We covered the Genius Act and the central bank digital currency architecture and the way that banning the CBDC on paper while building the surveillance and compliance infrastructure underneath it leaves retail holders exactly as exposed as before. Different branding, same trap. We covered BlackRock and the coordinated institutional movements that look like market behavior and are actually something closer to choreography. We covered the Bitcoin miners going through their SEC filings in real time, documenting that BitDeer, Riot, Bitforms, and IREN all pivoted to AI simultaneously while publicly calling themselves long-term Bitcoin holders. That's not coincidence, that's a structural signal. And we covered Michael Saylor, the most important and complicated figure in Bitcoin right now, because his thesis about Bitcoin as a treasury reserve is partly right and partly a much more interesting story about what happens when faith becomes a financial instrument. Here's what connects all of it. In every one of those stories, there is a party with better information and a party operating on incomplete information. In every one of those stories, the architecture of the market transfers wealth from the second group to the first. And in every one of those stories, by the time the mechanism becomes visible to retail, the insiders have already exited. That's not 10 separate stories. That's one story told 10 ways. If you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. What comes next is where this gets interesting. We are building toward a complete forensic map of how emerging technologies get captured. Crypto was the first case study. AI is the second. The mechanism is identical. The timeline is different, but the pattern, the same insiders, the same information asymmetry, the same regulatory architecture that protects incumbents while presenting itself as consumer protection is already visible if you know what to look for. A few specific things on the horizon. We're going to go deep on XRP because the comment section has been asking, and because the Ripple story is one of the cleanest examples of who actually wins when a legal case resolves in crypto's favor. Spoiler alert, it wasn't the retail token holders who absorbed years of discounted pricing during the lawsuit. We're going to examine what a real threat to Bitcoin's protocol actually looks like. Not price, protocol. The difference matters enormously, and the answer is more reassuring than most people expect, which is why the question is worth asking honestly. We're going to dig into the Adam Smith Foundation underneath all of this, because when I say the invisible hand couldn't work in crypto, I don't mean that as a political statement. I mean it as a structural one. Adam Smith's model requires dispersed actors with equal information and no single price mover. Crypto has none of those conditions. That's not a market failure. That's a market that was never designed to function as a market. And we're going to keep doing what's working, which is taking whatever broke in the last 48 hours and putting it through the forensic lens before the news cycle moves on. The thesis of this entire operation is simple. Information asymmetry is the primary barrier between you and understanding what's happening to your money. Closing that gap is my value proposition to you. That's what the book does. That's what this channel does. 10,000 subscribers in 3.5 months. Most of you found this channel through a specific video on a specific day because the algorithm decided the subject was relevant to you. That's how it works. What I'm asking you to do now is to make a different decision. Not because the algorithm is serving you a video, because you've decided the pattern is real and you want to see if the rest of it is documented. Subscribe if you haven't. The Token Trap is available on Amazon and at thetokentrap.com. My name is Dana Love, PhD, and I'll see you in the next one.